We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
We no longer live in a world of nations and ideologies, Mr. Beale. The world is a business, Mr. Beale.
Go on without me. Just go.
A good soldier never leaves a man behind.
Because I wouldn't give you 2 cents for all your fancy rules if behind them they didn't have a little bit of plain, ordinary, everyday kindness.
Life, finds a way.
Welcome to Silver Screen Biases, where we dig into a critically acclaimed movie and evaluate the truth claims within it. I'm Nelson.
This is Jeff.
And I'm Brad.
Today we are talking about Spirited Away, 2001 animated movie directed by Hayao Miyazaki.
Studio Ghibli.
Studio Ghibli, yes.
This is considered to be Miyazaki?
Miyazaki.
This is considered to be Miyazaki's magnum opus.
I don't know who that is.
The best.
The best opus.
Of all the opuses.
That's Latin for best opus.
Okay. But before we get into that, we want to take a moment to acknowledge and appreciate our sponsors. Link below in the show notes, Tuttle Twins. It is books. It is a podcast. It is a YouTube TV show. It is a bunch of infotainment to help you and your children be more critical thinkers. It adapts great works of libertarian fiction and nonfiction into digestible stories for kids. Each book is based off of a different work of literature, and it references that one so that you as the parent can also read it and be a more informed and better critical thinker. Brad, are you familiar with Tuttle Twins at all?
I am. Probably not as much as you, but I've read a couple. Like I read the, The Law, I think, the one that's based on Bastiat.
Yep.
It was really good. I think I read Creature from Jekyll Island about the Fed.
Yeah.
Hiss, boo.
As Patrick calls it, the inflation monster.
Nice.
Yeah.
Disclaimer. Brad and I are family. He's my brother-in-law, and when we were on vacation last summer, my children made him read several Tuttle Twins books to them.
I learned a lot.
And over again.
Yeah. And now Brad is a more critical thinker,
yes.
A more well-informed critical thinker. Jeff, you've been exploring Tuttle Twins a bit. What do you think?
Specifically the YouTube stuff, same as the previous episodes. Just really enjoy. I love knowing that it's content that I don't have to worry about my daughter watching and worried about what she's consuming. That's if it's going to be corruptive or inappropriate. So just on top of the academic and educational portions, like it's fun to watch. It's goofy.
Yeah.
It's entertaining. It's well done.
Yeah.
So I myself do not consider myselfly a critical thinker.
Okay.
Myself.
You're an uncritical thinker.
Myselfly.
But this show has challenged me to think critically.
How does one consider? He considers himselfly.
Up until this podcast, I haven't even really looked in entertainment much as critically. So like between Tuttle Twins and us doing movies like this, I think it's been a great combination. So yeah, I definitely highly recommend you guys check it out if you haven't checked it out yet.
Since you brought that up, I'm curious, has what you've seen on Tuttle Twins affected the way that you think when looking at these movies?
I don't know if I've noticed a direct correlation between Tuttle Twins and the movies yet.
Okay.
But just in my day in, day out thinking of, I learned something new. I used that today type of thing. So yeah, I don't know if I've seen it connect to the movies I've watched, but it definitely has helped me become, as a 33-year-old man, become more critical in my entertainment viewing.
Sure.
It's really helped him with his tax fraud.
Yeah. Yeah.
More nuanced.
Watch out,
fraud.
2023.
Disclaimer, I'm joking.
And Jeff, your daughter is how old?
37.
37.
No, she's a
lot older than I thought.
16 months.
16 months. Yeah. So
look at day over 36.
Her attention span is very minimal, but I do finish the episodes even if she doesn't.
But I only bring that up to point out, like, my children are, 8, 5, and 3, right? So they're consuming this content at a different level than your daughter, but it's still enjoyable for your daughter.
Yeah.
And safe. And as we discussed when we had Sarah on, they've even got books targeted at toddlers, children, teens, young adults. They've got the whole spectrum.
Elderly.
The elderly, yeah. Targeting the elderly. with Tuttle Twins. All right, so that's actually it. That's going to wrap up our promo spot. Check the show notes below. When you click that link, it'll take you to the Tuttle Twins website, and when you purchase there, it knows that we sent you,
Yep.
and we get a little cut of the action, and we appreciate that immensely.
And we'll hand deliver the books to you at your doorstep when you buy them.
Anywhere in the country.
Anywhere in the country.
If it looks like it's a guy from FedEx or UPS, that's just a coincidence.
Yeah.
We're in disguise. We do appreciate direct donations as well. You can find that on Buy Me a Coffee. The link's below and where it says support us. But if you want to get something physical in and also support us, Tuttle Twins is the best way to do that. And it's the way that we're most excited about.
Yes.
Now, let's get back to the show. Brad, it's so good to have you here.
Yes.
Good to be here.
Welcome.
Big fan.
Thank you.
It sounded sarcastic, but I really actually do love the show.
I can see it on your face.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't see it.
No, I am a big fan.
Brad
I'm happy to be
is a person that constantly makes me laugh and makes me think, and I'm excited to have you here and get your thoughts on this. And I had to make sure that I did not have eye contact with you when I made that sincere compliment.
I looked away too. I was like,
Well, this is uncomfortable.
I'm like grown men blushing.
Hopefully hopefully my sister, your wife, doesn't hear about this.
Listen here, fat.
You dog-faced pony soldier.
Man.
So we've discussed our biases at length on the show. Jeff and I have, and you're familiar with them from having listened to the show. I come from a libertarian tradition, a subset of which is called anarcho-capitalism. The market can provide all the governance we need. We don't need government. That's my bias. My bias is that the Word of God is literally God inspired, and the Bible is literally the Word of God and inspired by God. Jeff shares my opinion on Scripture, not so much on governance.
Correct. Yeah. My education on politics is a lot less than yours, Nelson. But I do have opinions politically, but they're not drastically different. But I'm a lot more politically.
You're less radical than me.
Correct. Yeah, a lot more politically neutral.
Right. And we like to ask our guests where they land on these things. So let's start with political biases.
Sure.
Brad, what are some political biases that you have that people may or may not share?
Well, I agree with probably most of your positions on things.
When you say your, do you mean mine or Jeff's?
Sorry, Jeff. No, Nelson's. I too would at this point consider myself an anarcho-capitalist. I was sort of more, small L libertarian for a longer time. I think you and I probably had, you were a little ahead of me on the ANCAP, we call it, stuff, but
yeah.
I think we had sort of a similar trajectory with sort of our development on, our political views. But yeah, I'm in that camp, the Rothbardian sort of
Misesian.
Yeah, but I don't know. So I'm sort of in that wheelhouse. I'm sure there's things, we particulars we might disagree on.
Sure.
Like anybody. Same with theologically. I'm
much more open to incremental approaches than you. You tend to advocate more for radical changes than I do.
Yeah, that might just be a personality thing.
Yeah.
Impatience, I don't know. Maybe. But yeah, that's probably true. But it's not to say I'm unhappy with, good
Sure.
incremental wins or anything like that. I think, my
You're
view
not
on
content.
that's what it is. I get uncomfortable when people, not when they celebrate incremental wins per se, but I want to be careful that people don't stop.
Right,
there.
or become complacent. Specifically,
become too happy with it.
The subject where this has been a biggest conversation for Brad and I has been on the topic of pro-life stances on abortion. Right. Brad and I share entire opinion on that, but when I get excited about some new legislation that's going to make abortions more difficult to come by, I'm
a little more skeptical.
Brad tends to be more skeptical and tempers my excitement.
Sorry about that.
slow your roll, Nelson.
Yeah. Now, I think there's really two halves to a worldview, political and religious.
Yeah.
Where do you land religiously? You're an atheist, correct?
No. Shut your face. No, I'm I share the same, view about the word of God as you guys. I believe the Bible is inerrant, infallible, like it is the word of God. Not dictated, but inspired through men and all that.
Dictated, not read.
Yeah. No, it's like Islam. It came down on a pillow from heaven, complete.
I heard it was found on golden tablets in the woods.
No, yeah. You got to have the right underwear for that.
That pillow is the synopsis of the new Indiana Jones movie. That's what he's going after.
Oh boy. But yeah, so I share those same views. I think we probably differ on some theological particulars. Like, I don't think anything like super foundational per se.
Like, I don't believe that Jesus was actually a human. I think he was mostly a llama.
Oh, okay.
Llama incarnate.
That's our show.
Now, what's that called? What's that historical view?
I believe it's heresy absurdism.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure it's not Islamism.
I love it. Dude, we're not going to top that tonight.
I'm here all night, folks.
Two terrific Islam jokes right off the bat. Jeff, you're on fire.
But yeah, like I'm probably the biggest point of difference I'd say between you and I don't know where Jeff lands on this, but I'm a Calvinist.
Yeah.
And you're sort of
I'm a Calvinist sympathizer who doesn't take a strong stance on it.
Yeah. And like I said, I have a more like jump all in probably kind of personality.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know if that's true, but like, I'm all in on that.
Yeah.
I would say I'm a 3-pillar Calvinist.
Okay.
So that's
Okay.
the very shorthand of it. So
Okay. So
And you
so
really
you
only
believe
need-
in providence and like
You only need
all that.
3 pillars for a stool to work, right? So
Yeah.
good enough.
any more than that, you're just being
It turns into
it's
a
just
chair.
luxury.
Right.
Yeah, so that's my biases. That's where I'm at.
I appreciate you letting us know kind of where you sit on these things. I do know that in the future we've got some people that are excited to come on, Jeff, that that very much don't share our views on most things.
I look forward to that.
And most of our guests so far have shared our religious views, and some of our guests have shared my political views. Some of them have shared your political views, but we're going to be having people in the future that I'm excited about that that strongly disagree with us on religion and politics.
I love it. Yeah.
And we will politely approach a film and say, "Hey, this is what we think the film's trying to tell us," because that's really what this show's about for us. It's not.
I think that'll bring some interesting dynamics, right? Like because I think if we're all sort of in the same general like worldview camp, right? Like it's easy to get tunnel vision on like
Absolutely.
interpreting art and like aesthetics. And
I
things
can't
like that.
grow or challenge my beliefs if I'm not talking to other people that have different beliefs
Right.
than me. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I love it and I welcome
Yeah,
it.
I'll be
Absolutely.
here as a bodyguard for those episodes if you want.
Unnecessary, but I appreciate the offer. So, Jeff,
Yes.
kick us off.
All right, Spirited Away. As we said, this is our movie for the episode 2001. It's a Studio Ghibli
21 years old
production,
now.
21 years old.
It can legally drink.
Congratulations.
Can't physically drink though.
No.
That's the problem.
2 hours.
hurdle.
Yeah.
Movie's 2 hours and 5 minutes. Hayao Miyazaki is the director.
Yeah.
Which he's done a couple different Ghibli Studio Ghibli productions.
Yeah, he's their heavy hitter.
Correct. I will say, and before I get into the other stats, the other numbers for this movie, this was my first animated movie or anime movie,
Right.
personally. So that will dictate some of the things that maybe I'm missing as we get into this deeper. But
I want to touch on that real quick because I was saying just before the show, and Brad knows this about me. It's very rare that I'm in a room where I am not the person in the room least interested in anime.
Yeah.
This past year, I watched the entire Dragon Ball franchise just to prove that I didn't like it, and I was right.
Oh, so you
I spite
didn't like
watched
it?
the entire franchise.
You actually finished it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Hadouken.
Yeah.
Wow.
I knew you were doing that,
I
which
s-
is like, I mean, you scored 13 out of 20 on the.
Yeah, so what Brad's referring to is I took an adult autism test and I scored very high. I scored a 19, and at 20 it says you almost definitely do and should consult a doctor.
Yeah.
And I scored higher than my friend who has been diagnosed with Asperger's.
Nice.
Yeah, but no, I watched all of Dragon Ball as
a goof.
As a goof. As a goof. No, because whenever I say that I don't like
300
anime,
hours of my life
as a goof. No, whenever I say that I don't like anime, people are like, "Oh yeah, well, have you watched blah?" And then I'm like, "No, I haven't watched blah." And they're like, "Oh, well, it really takes off in the 3rd season."
Yeah, I hate that.
And I'm like, well, I'm not going to watch 2 seasons of
Right.
something
You gotta
just to find
commit.
out
That
if I
means
like
it's
it.
not that good.
Right.
I'm the same.
Yeah.
But I was like, all right, I'm going to double down. I'm going to triple down. I'm going to, however many hours of the Dragon Ball franchise there is down, watch the entire thing, and then decide, do I like this?
That's fair.
Yeah.
And I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, so like with Dragon Ball specifically, and I hate that we're pivoting to this, I'm not like, I know weeb.
All anime is Dragon Ball.
Yeah, right, exactly. I think that's probably a bad representation of the genre.
Oh, for sure.
Like it
And I
was
knew that
popular
going
with
in.
like it was popular with like junior high boys because
Yeah.
it's like explosions and like
And it was one of the few.
I could-
things
you could
aired
see
in
why it appeals
USA,
to-
America too. Like,
Yeah.
it was
I
on
mean,
cable.
well,
that's
no.
why it was so popular.
it still has a cult following with adults in the U.S.
who watched it
It's-
as junior
Yeah,
hires.
but I mean, no. What I mean is like they're still making content that those now adults are going and watching and enjoying.
yeah.
I've watched other anime. There's a very small amount that I like. Almost all of it is anime that mocks the genre. Anime has a bunch of tropes that I just don't appreciate.
Yeah.
Did you like One Punch Man?
Nope.
That's all. The whole thing
I know.
is mocking.
I know. I tried. My brother was like, "Hey, you're really gonna like this." I watched a season.
loved it. I thought
I
it was
watched an
hilarious.
entire season of it, and I was like, "This isn't for me."
Fair enough. I'm really sounding like a weeb here because I'm
You
like
are.
bringing up.
Yeah, I'm glad you wore your fedora and brought your samurai sword.
Yeah.
Now, as far as Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli goes, Studio Ghibli, for those unfamiliar, is very much the Disney of Japan,
Yeah.
and it's actually now a Disney company.
Yeah.
My kids
So
love.
it's literally the Disney of Japan.
It is now literally. It was before
Studio
figuratively.
Ghibli theme parks coming soon. Probably.
My kids love Studio
Ghibli
Ghibli
World.
movies. Got a real great ring to
It's
it.
coming. You know,
Really
you know
rolls
it'll
off the
happen.
tongue.
You know it'll happen.
Ah.
So IMDb, it's 8.6.
Okay.
It's number 31 on the IMDb top 250.
Okay.
Rotten Tomato, the tomato meter, it's 97%. In the audience, it's 96%.
Those are great scores.
Those are really good. Really good scores. Very consistent. For scores, as far as scores. Yeah.
Scory scores.
It's something that we've not really discussed yet, but I think this is a good time to bring it up, is how difficult it is to get a non-American movie into the
Right.
IMDb top 250.
That's one of very little that's on the top 250.
Because the top 250 is not what you would assume it is,
Right.
which is just the top 250 rated movies in IMDb. They actually have a custom formula, and one of the metrics in that formula is how much their quote-unquote active users,
Right.
end quote, have reviewed a specific movie. And the simple fact is that the majority of their active users are in the U.S. And so as a result, it tends to
a
skew
little biased,
towards
yeah.
American movies.
Yeah.
So,
That's interesting.
yeah.
There's definitely some foreign films, but
Oh, for sure.
probably not
Yeah.
a lot of foreign animated.
No.
on top
There's
of it,
there's a
right?
second Ghibli film.
Yeah.
Was
Princess
that
Mononoke.
Mononoke?
Oh, I
I've
thought
never
it's
seen
not
that
the
one.
High Tower.
Oh, well, no, Grave of the Fireflies. Or maybe there's more than one.
You guys,
Is Grave of the Fireflies?
Pretty
Studio
sure.
that one's about the atom bomb, right?
It's definitely Studio Ghibli. I think it's top 250.
I
But
think
there-
that's about the nuclear bombs. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure.
But like, if you look up the IMDb top 1,000 movies, which is
Yeah.
a separate list you can access, there's movies that are in the top 250 that aren't in the top 1,000. So, like,
Interesting.
and
That's
that-
weird.
And so the way that their formula is structured, it does skew and remove movies that otherwise should be there. For example, All Quiet on the Western Front.
Yeah, we were like looking at a few of these a while ago,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just like, why is this not on the top 250? And it just did not add up.
Yeah.
It didn't
And
make sense.
I did a bunch
Yeah,
of digging
how's-
and was able to find that they have a formula. The formula itself has been made public, but the definitions of the terms within the formula, like what qualifies as an active user, they have not disclosed.
Interesting.
yeah, Howl's Moving Castle was not in the top 250.
Okay.
Getting back to my notes here.
Yeah.
So, the budget for this movie in 2001 was $19 million.
That's right. And that's $19 million as an
American.
estimate US dollar.
Correct.
Not Japanese.
19 million yen. It's like cheapest movie ever.
So it's a $19 million US budget. If we were to account for inflation today, that's worth $32 million. In just 20 years, 19 million has become 32 million.
That's weird. I wonder why.
Well, if you listen to our last
I just
episode,
get you going.
if you listen to our last episode, It's a Wonderful Life, Dr. Lucas Engelhardt did a terrific job explaining how fractional reserve banking leads to inflation.
I'll just read Tuttle Twins.
Yeah, inflation monster. Listen to him, man.
To date, it has earned 395.5 mil.
It's a success.
US dollars. Yeah. That's in US
Pretty
dollars.
good.
So that's all the facts I have for the movie.
Okay, I have a production fact that I would have expected you to have found, but Pixar animator John Lasseter, who is a friend and fan of Miyazaki's work, convinced Walt Disney Pictures to buy the film's North American distribution rights and served as executive producer of its English dubbed version. He then hired Kirk Weiss as director and Donald W. Ernst as producer. Both of those guys have a long credit list in American animation.
You guys watch the dub or the subbed version?
We watched the dubbed version.
Okay.
Did you watch the sub?
I watched the dub.
Okay.
I actually like.
Well, here's what I want to. Here's a really what I thought was fascinating part about the dub. He also hired screenwriters Cindy and Donald Hewitt, who wrote the English language dialogue to match the characters' original Japanese language lip movements.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So it's not like
It's not a translation; it's a transliteration, which you don't see a lot in.
It was pretty organic, actually. Like
Yeah.
that's surprising.
That's a fun fact. I didn't.
Yeah. So like the reason I watched the dub, because I usually hate dubs.
Yeah.
Because they're usually garbage.
Right.
But this one was actually pretty good. But
Ghibli does a great job. With
yeah,
the
it was a really good English dub. But the reason I did it is because Sadie, I watched this with Sadie.
right, and she's literate.
She's completely illiterate. No, she's been like crocheting a bunch.
Yeah.
So it's like she's not watching the screen the whole time to like see the subtitles. Why are you laughing at my wife?
When you laugh so quietly, Jeff, it robs me of the.
Jeff, why are you laughing at my wife's illiteracy?
Is
that funny to you?
Yeah.
It brings me.
It's not
joy,
funny.
man. It
Some
brings
people
me
are
joy.
illiterate.
Some people don't know how to read, Jeff. It's no laughing matter.
Other people's reading problems are other people's joy. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? People say that.
Another one man's trash, another man's treasure.
You treasure my trash, sister.
I very much do. I love you, honey.
All right. Any other production notes?
That is all I have.
I've got a few more. These are not so much production notes as they are. I don't know where to put them. We've only done this once before, where we talk about the meaning of the names of characters.
Right? Yeah. Let's do it. Yeah.
I happened upon finding out that Haku, which is the main the can't remember the word for it, but the
comma, right?
The deuterotagonist.
Oh, okay.
He's the second most main character.
I thought you meant the comma or whatever, the like spirit
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
So Haku's name literally means white. Haku means white. His original name was Kohaku,
Like the river.
which is a river, but not a real river,
No, fictional river.
fictional river, which literally means amber. So when she took his name and changed his name, she made him to mean something radically different, and I think that's interesting. We also have that Chihiro, I believe, is that right? Chihiro?
Yeah. And she changes to Sen.
To Sen.
Later.
So Chihiro's name, Chihiro is supposed to be 10 years old in the movie. Her name means 1,000 questions. Now, I happened to find this early on while watching the movie, and she does ask a ton of questions during the movie. And I don't know if I only noticed that because I was aware of it, or if that's part of how they wrote her. Her name is changed to Sen.
S-E-N.
S-E-N. And Sen means magical forest elf with long life.
Oh, I could see it.
And I don't think that has any relevance in the movie. The guy with a bunch of arms that makes the tea, Or make that
Oh,
makes
yeah,
different
that guy,
soaps.
the Dr. Robotnik.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was sweet.
His name
He
is
was cool.
Kamaji, which means the loved one. Yubaba, who is the antagonist, literally means elderly woman of the hot water.
I mean, that's pretty on point.
Doesn't Baba mean like grandmother?
Exactly.
Okay.
And YU means
I
of
know
the hot
weeb.
water.
I'm going to keep saying that all night.
And then Zeniba, which is her twin sister, means ancient money. I tried to find a name meaning for Lynn,
Who's Lynn?
The teenage or the
the young woman.
the young woman that helps.
Oh,
send
yeah.
out-
They're like, she's cranky at first.
Yeah,
She-
and apparently, her name isn't Japanese; it's Taiwanese or Chinese. There's
Loophole.
and depending on whether you're Taiwan or Japan, the name means different things. So I didn't get anything satisfying for that. But I thought a lot of the characters, their names spoke a lot about their characters.
Yeah.
With the exception of Sen.
And I'll say this: I think it's a good time to point it out because with all the other films we've watched, even the ones we've liked or not liked,
Right.
this is the first movie where, like, even if I'm watching critically,
Yeah.
I was afraid I was going to miss things because I'm not of the culture
Yes.
that this
I felt the
that
same
this
way.
film came from. So like when I watched it, I'm like, is that supposed to mean something different? Is that supposed to mean something different?
Yeah.
What is that symbolic or is that just goofy? Like there were a lot of times where I was questioning it and I'm just like, I don't know if I'm missing something.
Yeah.
So I think one thing about that, because I had the same feeling watching it, because I'm like, I'm not from this culture,
Right.
and a lot of this is like really like culturally, historically like bound, the symbolism, right? But I had to remind myself, because I looked this up, the target audience was, I think, 10 to 13-year-olds,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So like, I think Miyazaki, I think he did a really good job of sort of conveying a message that would be understandable,
Yeah.
right, to that kind of audience without necessarily having that deep intellectual, like, I guess, historical tradition, right?
Right.
I mean, I guess, they're brought up in a culture like that,
Right.
but
Sure.
In
Yeah.
the Japanese, like I mean, from my perspective, from my American perspective, I've always, whenever I think of the Japanese culture, I always think of a culture that's very much enriched in heritage.
Yeah.
Like, it's like even in the 21st century, like it just seems like they're always doing things. And I say this in a positive light, like that respect and acknowledge their heritage
So,
way more
yeah.
than what we do here in America.
So actually, I think that's a major theme of the movie, actually. Like a less surface, but like it is like, I think there's multiple layers to like what's being tried to be, what he's trying to say.
Sure.
And I think it kind of, and I think that's probably part of why this movie is so highly rated. It's like really masterful in how it's communicating like the same basic message to like different groups,
Right.
like depending who it is watching.
Right.
I think, like, to like a kid, it's like, it's about growing up and like, like the last line of the movie, I think kind of sums up what it is. New school, new home. It's a bit scary. And then Chihiro says, I think I can handle it. That's like,
Yeah.
that's the whole, like, that really sums up, I think, the message,
Yeah.
that's trying to be conveyed at least to like a kid.
Right.
But I think there's more layers to it that we can get into. We probably want to get in a little more detail.
Well, I want to spend a minute on cultural stuff that we might have missed.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned, like I don't love anime because there's a lot of tropes in anime that I don't like them. And it's not that I don't understand them, I just don't appreciate
Do you think this movie had a lot of those?
This movie does call in a handful
Give
of
me
anime
some
tropes.
examples because I'm out of the three of us, I'm probably the least experienced with anime.
Sure.
So what are some tropes that you're referencing?
In general with anime or with this movie?
In general.
The
Okay.
things you don't like, I guess.
All right. A handful of things, tropes in anime that I really don't.
So like, I'm the most powerful, I will destroy
That
kind of thing.
The antagonist through the first season almost always is actually working to protect the protagonist, and you find that out at the end of the first season, and it's this great big dramatic reveal. But because every single
Like
anime
Vegeta.
does it, yeah,
Yeah.
because every single anime does it, it just loses its dramatic oomph. A handful of the tropes of anime are actually just tied to Asian storytelling, not anime specifically. And that's what we see in this movie. Those are the ones that I picked up on in this movie. But, the protagonist always has spiky hair. The person with the second most spiky hair is the antagonist who will become the protagonist. The father usually isn't in the show. The mother is, and is not really paying attention to what's happening and doesn't really matter to the plot, but she is a presence.
So far, none of those apply to this movie.
No.
Yeah.
But again, like the tropes are more Asian storytelling than anime. Another trope in anime that I don't like. Like, so these past tropes are ones that that I just don't appreciate.
They bug you.
They bug me. This is one that I specifically do not like, and it turns me off from watching anime, and I don't watch anime because of it. And it is the hypersexualization of preteen and teenage girls. It's just like I don't want to see that.
Is this a moment where I did find that weird in this movie? She's 10, and the person that was love, like the character that true love helped break the curse of him.
He's supposed to be 12.
Really?
Yeah.
But you find out he's a sea spirit.
Right. So he's
which
ageless.
Makes him 1,000 years old.
Yeah,
older,
that's some weird kinky Japanese
I'm
stuff.
pretty sure I got the vibe that he was older, like 18. Like,
okay,
I did.
Oh, he's a 12-year-old river.
Okay. If he was supposed to be 12 years old, I feel a little
recently
better.
irrigated.
The fact that he was ageless or
eroded,
that weird.
It changes things. Yeah, no, that's fair. Stylistically, his human form is supposed to be 12 years old.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better.
Miyazaki does not sexualize adolescent women.
No, there was one. Moment.
Yeah, I didn't.
There
was
one moment in this movie.
Okay, what was
I
that?
didn't pick up.
It was super subtle and like. So when
I should say doesn't typically.
Can say how do you say her name?
Chihiro.
Chihiro. Okay. When Chihiro was with
Lin.
No, the male figure. I'm terrible with his names. Haiku. And they're he's like
Haiku. Haiku is a Japanese poem.
Just wait, I've prepared one. When he's like, hold your breath, we're gonna walk across the bridge.
Right.
Right before they get across the bridge and the frog goes, a human.
Right.
There's a big gust of wind that goes by.
Oh, does it blow her?
It blows a bunch of girls' skirts up.
Okay.
It doesn't show anything, but that was the first.
It does the Marilyn Monroe thing.
Right.
Also in Japanese culture, underwear is much more provocative than.
And there was some facial expressions of just like, oh, like
yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, it's like, and that was the one of a couple different moments where I'm like, who is the audience for this movie?
And I think on that note, this is something I don't really know about Japanese culture, but are bathhouses, like, is that a weird?
Yes.
Like, is it like just a normal spa, or is it like a brothel kind of thing?
It's a brothel.
Is it?
Wait,
and that's
really?
and that's why the toads do the cleanup, and the women didn't want her.
I did not pick up on that.
And the women didn't want
right,
Chihiro joining there. So there is that aspect
we'll
of it.
come back to that.
Because I always got the feeling that bathhouses were a little like creepy.
Yeah. No, bathhouses in every culture.
So that makes Yababa a madam.
Yeah. Yeah. No, she represents like vice and all things
evil.
Yeah.
Wow, we're gonna stop this and I'm gonna go rewatch the movie real quick.
Yeah, I will say a lot of this is symbolic, right?
Yeah.
So like there is a purpose to it.
Yes.
It's not gratuitous.
And also if you're the target audience, you don't know what a bathhouse is.
Right.
You don't think?
I don't think so. And the movie isn't explicit about what a bathhouse is.
Okay.
Right? Like Jeff.
No, yeah, there's nothing
Jeff
like
I took it as a spa.
Jeff
I wouldn't say there's anything
adult, and and even the stuff that's in there, it's like wink and nod. If you know, you know.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say, and this might be apocryphal, but I'm pretty sure this is actually accurate. Prior to the U.S. Exporting its culture to Japan post World War II and post Hiroshima,
exporting twice.
Are you talking about the bombs?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm talking post bombs. That's not our culture, I hope.
Oh, okay.
No, actually,
it certainly is, Nelson.
It is the part of our culture we seem to export the most. One of the things that we exported with that culture is women's underwear. Apparently, prior to that, women's underwear wasn't really a thing in Japan, and that's why there's such a fetishization of women's underwear in Japanese anime.
Okay.
Is because
that another trope that I'm not aware of? Like,
yeah, that's a huge trope in anime.
Favorite trope, Nelson's favorite.
Yeah,
for sure.
Such a fan. And so that's the short list of why I don't like anime.
Okay.
Now, Asian storytelling also just doesn't drive with me. I don't relate to it as well. But there's a couple tropes from Asian storytelling that Miyazaki likes to use and definitely show up in this.
Okay.
So Kamaji reflects a standard trope in Asian stories of a wise and kind old man directing the hero.
Kumaji was
the six-armed
Yes,
soap guy.
that's right.
George Lucas loves Asian storytelling and actually used that for Yoda.
Right. I know there's a lot of Japanese
Like Buddhism,
inspiration
Yeah.
with Star Wars.
Kami and Master Roshi in Dragon Ball, for those of our fans that have seen Dragon Ball,
Unfamiliar.
are also representing that trope. Interesting.
Master Roshi, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Master Roshi is a
Absurd.
absurd
Yeah.
and
Perverted.
well, not like he is.
Extremely.
He is perverted, but he's intended as a satire of the trope.
Okay.
But Kami is not. Kami is the trope through and through. But Master Roshi lives on an island in the middle of the ocean with just his house
Like
and
a
tree on
tiny,
it.
like the size of this
Yeah.
house, probably.
Okay.
And as I was reflecting on that, on how Kamaji and Master Roshi kind of have that similarity, that they were riding in the train towards the end of the movie, and they passed an island with a single house and a single tree on it.
Really?
Yeah,
I did see the house.
and
I remember
wondered-
seeing that.
I wondered if that's included there as a nod to Dragon Ball,
Could be.
or if that island with a house and tree on it represents something more in Japanese culture that,
That would be shared by both.
yeah,
right?
that they were both nodding to. And that I don't know because I'm not steeped in Japanese
Our
culture.
Japanese friends, write in and tell us.
Let us know. I have one more trope of Asian storytelling, which is the identical twin sister witches are a pretty common trope of good witch, evil witch, which we see a lot in Asian style storytelling.
Is that like a Tao kind of thing with the,
It's
with the like
a bad
yin
cop,
yang
good
sort
cop
of?
type thing.
Yeah.
Because like I
Bad
think
cop.
because they're twins, that's
Yeah.
important because I think they're supposed to represent like the duality of like human
Right.
nature, right?
But going back again to Dragon Ball, which is again the franchise that I've consumed the most of in Japanese culture, Master Roshi has a twin sister witch who represents his like kind
Oh,
of
really?
the wicked side of him as well.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's the story tropes that I picked up on, and I'm sure there's a lot more. Another thing that I think you probably like, it's there enough to get it, but when she is with Kamaji the first time, she won't step up on that platform. She causes a little traffic jam with the soot sprites, and she doesn't step on the platform behind her to get out of their way.
Oh, right.
And that's because she was still wearing shoes. And then later she takes her shoes off to go up on the
Right,
platform.
and that's something that like they didn't have to explain to their audience, but to
Right.
us it just
It seemed weird.
wouldn't even- yeah, it's odd.
And it gets a little bit more explanation later when she does take off her shoes to step on the platform.
Because to the Japanese audience, it'd be weird if they did
Yeah,
explain.
that didn't seem
Yeah.
out of place to me too, because I've seen a bunch.
I didn't
I've
notice
seen
it.
movies that take place in Japan,
Right.
and and that's a thing where like
like Last Samurai, for
It is
example.
where they
known
have-
that
where
you
like
take your
those-
shoes off.
They have those special slippers or like
Sandals.
the sandals.
like,
It's like
platform.
so yeah. That didn't seem out of place to me at all. I actually didn't give that
No.
a second thought.
In My Neighbor Totoro, there's a scene where the two daughters that are the main characters in that movie, they walk into their house still wearing their shoes, so they're walking around on just their knees with their feet in the air. And I think it's really cute, and I wonder how common that actually is. Like, is that a thing that kids just do in Japan? So that's all I had for like culture stuff, culture tropes. I will say though, and this is I don't know if this is a culture trope or if it's a Miyazaki trope. Whenever he does an old lady, they always have the same haircut and they always have a big wart somewhere on their face.
Interesting.
Fun.
There's definitely a lot like more just overt tropes too, right? Just
Yeah.
like that are more rooted in I think Japanese like historical religion and things like that, like Shinto and all that, right? Like most of the characters and like the overall framing of, like for example the what's his name, Haku, you know?
Yeah.
He like so like Shinto, from my understanding, it's basically like an old school like animistic kind of religion. So like spirit is, you know, in inanimate objects and like forces of nature, like things
Right.
like that, right? So like it's all sort of, it's not necessarily like
With,
pantheism, right? where-
Midichlorians, right?
Yeah, actually kinda, right? It's not that far off.
I mean, Star Wars was based on
Yeah.
westerns and Japanese cultures.
Yeah, so like it's more, it's not quite like pantheism where it's all like one spirit, but
Worshipping
it's like
pans.
it's like like the spirits of your ancestors and things like that. They'll like inhabit nature and things like
Sure.
that. So that's why they'll like build shrines to like their ancestors and worship
that's
that.
fairly typical through most Eastern culture.
Most historical religion, period, like throughout the world. So like animism is like probably one of the earliest documented. Like that's like probably like say in the Bible, like the early part of the or Old Testament. Sorry, like if they're talking about like like sort of pagan religions and things like that, it's probably some form of animism, right? Like nature worship, things like that. So, it's a really, really old, I think, philosophy that's been in most cultures. I think Japan probably has the most recent example in that, right? Like, I mean, there was a quote from Miyazaki. He's talking about that. So I did a very small amount of research. I didn't want to like spoil my thoughts too much, but he said, in my grandparents' time, it was believed that kami, which are like the spirit forces.
Yeah, it's
in
a
nature.
Japanese word for spirit.
Yeah. It was believed that kami existed everywhere, in trees, rivers, insects, wells, anything. My generation does not believe this, but I like the idea that we should all treasure everything because spirits might exist there, and we should treasure everything because there's a kind of life to everything.
And there's a nod to that in the dialogue of the movie very early on when she says, what's with those stone houses, or why there's stuff in the stone houses, and the mom says, some people believe that the spirits live there.
Yeah.
So I think
they were all old and dilapidated too. So it was even. I had a note about that. It was referencing the fact that like that's an ancient, or like that's an older belief, because it didn't show it as fresh spirit houses. They were all dilapidated. They were old. There's moss growing on them and stuff. So
yeah,
even in the movie, it was referencing that was.
That's interesting. I didn't pick up on the imagery of it, but yeah.
So I think and I picked up on this too, because I believe when they first entered, it was they said it was like an amusement park.
Yeah, that's what the dad
So
said.
it's not even a real.
I've got some notes.
They're not even real shrines, and I think that's a big part of like what he's trying to say to the larger audience, like the larger cultural sort of statement he's making is like for a kid, right? The movie would be about growing up. You can handle
like
this.
An Alice in Wonderland type.
Yeah, and I think it's a beautiful message, right? Like it actually, like, as someone who moved around a lot as a kid,
right,
and didn't feel rooted anywhere. My parents were divorced. I moved, all over the place. I didn't have like close friends anywhere I went. So I was always like immersed in like change, never feeling like rooted anywhere. Mm-hmm. So I think I kind of like sort of empathize with Chihiro's character, or sympathize with whichever one. I always get them mixed up, but antagonize with Chihiro's character. Where like in the beginning of the movie, everything's sort of happening to her. She's sort of along for the ride. She's afraid of everything. She's asking a million questions. She's more innocent. And I think over the course of the movie, she grows up a bit more, right? Yeah. Like she becomes self-actualized by the end, right? Yeah. And like she learns to face these fears and take responsibility, right?
The scene where she had to go right early at the movie, where she had to go down that big flight of steps.
Yeah, and she like falls forward.
Yeah, like that. I thought that was a subtle way, or like just a really quick, fun way to accelerate her growth from one step to another. Like I appreciated the way that they symbolize that. Yeah.
And I think like that sort of transformation from like innocence and fear to like self-actualization, and like, you went through all this scary stuff, but you came out of it okay and better for it, right? Mm-hmm. I think what I understood the movie to be saying in a larger sort of context, like a cultural context, is like society changes, right? Like, so like we'll lose our old traditions and like, all those things from generation to generation, like, or they'll get replaced with, a facade sort of what they used to be, right? So like the amusement park version of these old shrines, So that sort of like stood out to me. Is I think that's probably what's being said here, is like, the newer generations, they might hold on to these like vestiges of our old traditions, but not have the real substance to them, like, and we see that even, I think any culture can relate to that, right? Like our culture, for example, like, you know, we're seeing some pretty radical changes happening now. And I think there's even like, there's backlash against it with like more trad kind of movements and things like that, which they're not really grasping onto the, like what made the old desirable. You know what I mean? Like they're not really, I don't think
They're coming to it from a more secular.
it's like a fashion thing almost, right? It's not, they're not like embracing the worldview behind the traditional sort of lifestyle that they're like, you know, advocating for, right? It's just all like, you know, it's just, I think it's better. It's like a preference thing.
And also I found with a lot of it has almost no, they're not stopping to think about what of that old culture was bad.
Yes. So yeah, and so that's, I was actually going to pose a question to you guys because I was thinking about this
questions allowed
last night.
Sorry, I'm not good with those.
Because like I think what's being like sort of what's being said is like culture changes, and that's like it's inevitable, right?
Right.
Like, and that's okay. Like we're going to be okay, and like we'll, as a people or whatever, we'll survive this. Like think of Japan, right? They got bombed twice. Their culture, like, I mean, in a very short order went from a very traditional, and there's still, you know, vestiges of that, but like their culture flipped pretty modern pretty fast after that, and probably out of necessity in a lot of ways,
pretty aggressively. And I want to touch on that real quick. You pointed out that it was an abandoned amusement park, theme park. So the actual line, the specific line is, the dad says, "I knew it. This must be an abandoned theme park. They built so many in the early 90s, but they all went down with the economy. This must be one of them."
Interesting.
And so because of my...
Do you think I'm onto something here?
I think so.
Okay.
So I looked up Japanese economy in the 90s.
First of all,
And,
this movie took place in the 90s?
This
it was released in 2001, but when did the movie fictionally take place?
I'm guessing it was contemporary with the time because
so
these were built in the 90s.
Okay.
You said in past
just want to make
tense,
sure.
right?
Okay.
He said in the early 90s, which gives me the
could be
assumption
late
that they're
90s.
no longer than the 90s.
Right.
So this is referred to as the lost decades, plural. It used to be the lost decade, singular, but it kept going. So I'm going to read directly from
Kept being
Wikipedia.
lost.
Kept losing them. I'm going to read directly from Wikipedia, and this will be linked in the show notes. The lost decade was a period of economic stagnation in Japan, caused by asset price bubbles collapse in late 1991. The term originally referred to the 1990s, but the 2000s and the 2010s have been included by commentators as the phenomenon continued. From 1991 to 2003, the Japanese economy, as measured by GDP, gross domestic product, grew only 1.14% annually.
Wow. Okay.
While average real growth rate between 2000 to 2010 was about 1%, both well below other industrialized nations.
Now, does their economy function based on like money printing the way ours does?
Yes, but they are more conservative with their money printing.
So there was less inflation, would probably be less of a harm against that sort of growth.
Yeah, I believe they print less than we do. I may be mistaken.
All right.
Debt levels continued to rise in response to the global financial crisis in the Great Recession in 2008, the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami, and Fukushima nuclear disasters in 2011, and with the COVID-19 pandemic, the subsequent recession in 2020 further damaged the Japanese economy. Broadly impacting the entire Japanese economy over the period of 1995 to 2007, GDP fell from 5.33 trillion to 4.36 trillion in nominal terms. Real wages fell around 5%, while the country experienced a stagnant price level. So the money didn't change in value, and everybody's making 5% less.
Yeah.
While there is some debate on the extent and measurement of Japan's setbacks, the economic effect of the lost decades is well established, and Japanese policymakers continue to grapple with its consequences.
Okay.
So that is the context of the line. They built so many in the early 90s, but they all went down with the economy. And
Because there's less excess money to spend on something like a theme park.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I'm curious how much that context was relevant to Miyazaki. It might not have been at all. It might have been a throwaway line.
Yeah.
But choosing to include that the economy over the last 10 years has been bad, like in a kid's movie, it's a weird line to include. So
Yeah.
I think it was important to Miyazaki.
Yeah. Well, and I think, like I said before, I think it's, he made a movie for everyone.
Yeah.
Right?
For everyone.
Yeah. So
It
like
was PG actually.
he had messages
For
for
everyone.
children he had messages for kids and adults in
Right.
that movie, I think.
Yeah, that's fair.
Which is what good storytelling.
Yeah.
Like, I think,
Children's
which
movies.
made this movie valuable.
Yeah.
Across the board.
Honestly, I love this movie. I thought it was a like work of art. This movie,
Yeah.
like I think it deserves its reputation.
Incredible attention to detail in
Yeah.
Miyazaki films. There's when they're cleaning off the stink spirit.
Oh, that
Is
part made
so
me laugh
gross.
so hard. It made me laugh.
They
out
did
loud.
such a good job of of animating something to feel gross. My kids, when I was watching with them, they were like, "Ugh." And
Dude,
when I watched it by myself, I was like, "Oh, this is." Really
I don't know why it made me laugh really hard because like they had to still treat him like any other guest because he had money. Like,
Yeah.
Were you,
I
were you
would
talking
like-
about No Face?
No,
No.
the stink,
Oh,
like the
this
sludge
stink-
thing.
stink
Yeah.
spirit,
Who ended
yeah.
up being a water spirit.
Right.
So what did that represent?
I think that was. I think that established a few things.
Okay.
I think it established that Chihiro is a very kind and tender-hearted person.
Mm-hmm.
I
It
think
sees past biases
that
or
sees-
sees past differences.
think-
yeah.
I think you're right. I think it represented a boyfriend or something like that as part of her like maturing journey.
Oh, well, yeah, 'cause the movie
like
open-
nasty. I mean,
The
what
movie
is a
opens
man?
up with she received a bouquet as she left, and she's butthurt about that.
Well, what is a man if not a stink spirit?
We should.
Right?
We need to end on that.
That's poetry. Poetry. So no, I think it could be. I think
Yeah.
because the movie opens up with her. She's received a bouquet as she leaves, as she's moving away, right? And she's frustrated that the first time she gets a bouquet, she's never going to see the guy again.
Right.
And to console her, her mother reminds her that her dad bought her a rose once, which
Yeah. So that's one thing
Possible.
that stuck out to me.
stuck did.
Stucked
Stuck it out.
was sort of
Staken.
and I'm not sure what relevance this plays to the plot, but like her parent, like in the beginning, her parents sort of like they seemed callous
Mom
like-
specifically.
to her once, told her to like
Very
stop
much-
whining as they're uprooting her whole life and like
Well, and the dad.
Go ahead.
The dad was the same way with like safety.
yeah.
When they
Yeah.
found the tunnel, he was very cavalier of like.
Well, and then
oh, it's
start.
fine. Let's just look at
and
it.
they just
abandoned
randomly
tunnel."
start eating this food that's there.
The parents were both cavalier for
Yeah.
different things, and they covered essentially the whole gamut of emotional and physical safety for the
Right.
child.
I felt like the mom felt a lot like your
Like-
stereotypical Asian cold
yeah.
tiger mom. And the dad felt very much like your stereotypical Western sitcom dad.
yeah.
Yeah,
Just big oaf, dumb
Yeah.
oaf. Yeah.
Now, I did write on the parents eating so aggressively. I wondered how much of that was cultural, how much is the movie making a point? Because I do know, like, if you go to a ramen shop in Japan, you are supposed to not speak, but slurp loudly.
Yeah, I think
I
it was
would do
intentional
well
though. I think it was intentional because it got turned into pigs.
Right.
So they're making
Which-
pig noises.
that was one of my not biases, but one of the themes that I pulled from it is just the effects of gluttony, and I think
Yeah.
this theme played itself different way, like over the gluttony of food, the gluttony of money, like or the
Yeah.
over wanting of gold.
Luxury and
When they were going after the gold, when they were going at like, it's like I think that was the first initial introduction for us as the viewers of going like, okay, there's going to be multiple aspects of overindulgence in this movie, and that and like what happens when we overindulge.
It reminded me a lot of Pleasure Island from Disney's Pinocchio.
Yes.
Where the boys all go and they get excited to drink beer and smoke cigars and they get turned into donkeys.
Yeah. Well, to that point, the when anytime anyone accepted something from No Face, they got devoured.
Yeah.
Like that like little that masked ghost
Yeah.
thing. He offered them like
the one
gold.
that was creating the gold.
Yeah, he'd like offer them things, and if they took it, he'd devour them.
I never connected that. I always
Yeah.
thought I didn't understand the significance of Chihiro turning down his offers. I never considered that if she accepted the offer, she might be devoured by her
Yeah. So
greed
or gluttony or however you want to call it.
yeah, and that's sort of the view I had about it. This is one interpretation I did kind of spoil for myself when I was reading online, but apparently he represents loneliness. So like the things that you'll do to escape loneliness. So like because he becomes sort of whoever he devours, right? So like he'll like emulate other people or
That's
he'll
why he got
offer
here, I
them
think,
things. he'll like offer them things. He'll like, you know what I mean? Like,
And it was,
and he follows Chihiro around everywhere.
And then later on in the movie, after people had been receiving gold from him, it was discovered, or I don't know if I'm saying that really,
the gold was
the
dirt.
gold was actually dirt. So like he was even superficially trying to buy
the
companionship or
right. It was false.
It wasn't even real value.
What's the way like junior hires connect?
Yeah.
Right. Which she
Oh,
was
boy.
at that point, right?
At
that age.
The economist watcher in me, I want to read exactly what I wrote down in the notes because it makes me laugh. It made me laugh afterwards when it turned out to be dirt.
The U.S. dollar?
No. But that is hilarious.
Here, have $10. Nah, it's worthless now.
It's mud. Rub it on your face.
I wrote, it's unclear what use the spirits have for gold, but they're excited about it, and the massive monetary injection by No Face will be an economic problem in short order.
It's like, I was watching this, I was like, how is Nelson going to bring it around? How is he going to do it with this movie? He will find a way.
And then later when it turned out to be dirt, I'm like, can you imagine if sudden injection of money of stimulus into the economy, prices of everything goes up, and then very shortly after, all that money is determined to be valueless.
Yep.
And that's a completely hypothetical. That could never actually happen.
No, it never has.
Never has happened, never will happen. What would that do to the
Germany's
economy?
doing great, Zimbabwe.
I think that we could look at hypothetical hyperinflation situations to determine what might happen in a situation like that, if it ever happened.
Yeah, but, you know, very long
Luckily,
shot.
it hasn't ever and won't ever.
Very far-fetched.
Fiction.
On
Right,
that
I'll step off. I'll step off that apple crate. I can't.
I just don't know what
have
else
to
to
bring
say.
it in. I have to bring it up because, in my opinion, it is one of the most evil things in the world.
You're like that. You're like that meme of the kid with the veins in his head, just
Trying not to fart next to the pretty girl.
yeah.
I mean, I think it's an easy connection to make with what they're trying to represent in the movie. So I don't think it's far fetched for that statement to be made.
So this is kind of what I was curious. So like about the overall, to sort of shift gears, about the overall theme that I sort of picked up on, that like cultures change, people move on, and that's sort of like we're going to be okay kind of thing.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that's a good message? Should we embrace changing cultural mores and like traditions, or should we resist that? What do you think? Because I'm on the fence about it. I know that's that's a very broad.
I don't think that's what the movie is communicating. If it is communicating anything about embracing change, I think what it's saying is we need to continue to evaluate our past and what we want to bring with us into the future changes.
That's true, because he does say in that quote I read earlier, I like the idea that we should treasure everything.
Yeah,
he likes those old traditions.
So I think I think it's mix of nostalgia as well as progressivism. You know, culture is going to change. We need to be conscious of how it's going to change, and we need to be conscious of what things from our culture we're going to choose to bring with us into the future, what things should stay in the past.
So, okay, where would you guys land on that?
I think that it's important for people to understand why they believe what they believe.
Yes.
Apologetics.
And the band, right? The parody band?
Epistemology. Another great parody band. How you know what you know.
So I think it's important for people to understand not just what they believe, but why do you believe what you believe? Mm-hmm. And I think once you are rooted in that way, changing culture is kind of like it's almost like observing a fad.
Right. At a certain point, culture itself doesn't matter.
Right.
It's what you believe.
Once you adhere to a specific moral standard or traditional standard, then I think, and if you adhere to it astutely, I don't know if that's the right word, but if that's something you hold on to, I don't think it's hard to observe changes and go, I don't have to be a part of that.
Yeah,
like
I agree.
Unless there's some legal ramifications that make it difficult, or that, that pull you out of.
There's going to be red lines anonymity, that you have to stand up against.
Correct.
We see a lot of those now.
Yeah,
I don't know if Miyazaki was trying to articulate this point in making that broader point.
Sure, but I'm just curious what you guys think.
Well, actually, no. What I'm about to say is another point that's made in the movie that I observed that really kind of dovetails off of what Jeff was just saying. There is a lot of characters in this movie who are lying and being deceitful, using subterfuge to protect themselves. Right? Lin pretends not to like Chihiro until people are gone, and then she's very excited and
Haku does the same thing.
Haku does the same
Haku?
thing.
Yeah.
And as a result, Lin and Haku don't like each other, even though they're actually probably much more.
Yeah, Lin literally says, "Don't trust a thing Haku has to say."
That's right. And this reminded me a lot of Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Are you familiar with
Solzhenitsyn?
Yeah, I can never get Russian names right.
Idiot.
What a pleb.
But can you spell it?
I can.
Yeah, he wrote-
Solzhenitsyn.
Oh, the guy who wrote the Gulag Archipelago. Archipelago.
He was a Russian. He was a Russian Christian during the Soviet Union and a dissident.
Okay.
He was also a novelist.
Okay.
But his most well-known work is not a novel. It is a work of nonfiction called The Gulag Archipelago.
It's insanely long.
It's very long.
Is it like a memoir or like a manifesto?
It's a collection of stories.
It's part memoir, part history, talking about what it was like to be in the Soviet Union as a Christian.
Sounds riveting.
It's
tough.
brutal.
It's hard.
The audiobook is 79 hours long.
But he wrote
all in Russian.
He wrote
yeah, it's really tough read.
I didn't understand a word of it, but I listened to all of it, and I've determined I don't like it.
For me, it was the inflections. It was the raising and lowering of
Is that why
voices.
you didn't like Dragon Ball Z?
I
You
watched it
all
in Japanese without subtitles. Didn't get a word of it. Didn't like it at all. So Solzhenitsyn had an essay that got disseminated during the Soviet Union called "Live Not by Lies," and this is actually the only work of his that I've actually read. But it talks about.
It's very good.
It's very, very good. And Rob Dreher wrote a book of the same name, Live Not by Lies.
It's very short.
A manual for Christian dissidents. It's a short essay. And basically the gist of it is, do not allow yourself to be coerced into lying. Coercive authoritarians will have you do all kinds of things, but the one thing that you must never allow yourself to do is to betray your own morality for the sake of your own safety.
Well, his whole argument was basically that authoritarian regime like the Soviet Union is propped up by the lies of it's propped up by the lies of the general public, right? The ones that they'll repeat, that they're coerced into repeating, right?
Yeah.
So like there's this famous story of sort of like a parable. I don't remember who wrote it, but I think it's like Pavel or something like that. It's about the greengrocer. Mm-hmm. It's basically just painting a picture of this guy who's just, we see this everywhere in our, like on our social media today, of a store owner who's afraid of having his store closed, by whoever, by angry mobs or or the government or whatever. So he puts up in his window a flyer that essentially says, I support the current thing. Not specifically, it's whatever the current thing is. He's putting it up in his window. Yep. And it's not
to show
that
I'm one of you. Right.
He doesn't believe in it. He's signaling to the larger group, right, that he's on board with the message. Yeah. Quote unquote.
During the riots of 2020, we had store owners who even admitted to it, that the reason that they put Black Lives Matter in the windows of their stores was not because they necessarily agreed with the political message. Not that they were saying Black Lives didn't matter, but they didn't.
Isn't that wild? That
they didn't agree with all the additional baggage that came with that statement, but they didn't want their store to be destroyed.
Right. It's wild that they were successfully able to make that a controversial statement.
Right.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
Like that we were able to get the public to combat each other over the statement Black Lives Matter.
Yep.
Like 99.9% of people believe that statement as stated, but they threw in so much extra baggage.
The tinfoil hat side of me says that those at the helms of power wants it that way. A much more powerful message that would have been almost universally accepted would have been something to the effect of accountability for killer cops.
Right.
It would have represented accurately what the initial frustration was, right? Because
only the most absurd fringe, like hyper conservative, like weirdos would have had
said,
a problem with
no
that.
Accountability for killer cops.
Right.
I got a few quotes here from a few quotes here from Solzhenitsyn that I think help drive home his point. In our country, the lie has become not just a moral category, but a pillar of the state.
Yes.
Violence can only be concealed by a lie, and the lie can only be maintained by violence. Anyone who has proclaimed violence is his method inexorably must choose lying as his principle. And the last one, everything you add to the truth subtracts from the truth.
Yeah.
So those were all
It's a good statement.
4 quotes I could find from him on honesty, on truth, on lying. And I think it represents really well a trend that he saw in his country and that I think most countries see today. I don't think it was unique to the Soviet Union by any metric. I think all government I think is definitionally authoritarian and illegitimate. So that aside, I think all governments
It's a spectrum.
have a tendency to not just lie, but demand that you also tell the lie with them.
Right. We could think of many, many examples on all sides of the political spectrum where they pressured us to do that.
So Michael Malice recently released a book called The White Pill. Strongly recommended. It's a book about kind of exploring Soviet Union, other authoritarian regimes, and the reason to be hopeful in spite of that situation. He was recently on Lex Friedman. They are both Jewish survivors of communist Russia. One of the things that they were talking about and kind of reminiscing about is how people would be singing in public to the state, right? Like they're singing about how much they love the Soviet Union, and you can't be the first person to stop singing.
Well, the same thing happened with Stalin's speeches. They'd be like, after he finished a speech, they would clap for like insanely long amounts of time
Because nobody
no one
wants to
wanted
be the first person to stop
Yeah.
clapping.
Yeah. So that it'd be like 30 minutes. Just insane.
Because people were afraid that if I'm the first person to stop clapping, I will be put to death.
Imagine the anxiety just every day that you would live under in that sort of world.
And that same concept of coercive dishonesty is basically kind of like the main point of 1984 as well. That we have to
The whole year.
Why they put so much energy into getting Winston to say something he knew was a lie.
2 + 2 = 5.
Right.
I think that was a theme Miyazaki's putting into this film specifically because he's talking about evolution of culture. He's talking about what do you bring with you.
I totally lost the thread of this. Which theme?
Of the dishonest nature of coercive authority. And here's why.
Okay. Yeah, I grimaced because
So we have
I'm not making the connection.
We have all these characters lying to protect themselves.
Okay, right.
Okay,
yeah.
submitting to the authority and being dishonest in order to
Yubaba's
submit.
authority?
To Yubaba's authority. Yubaba represents all this vice and stuff. And Jeff, your point was when you're looking at culture, if you're rooted, if you know what you believe and why you believe it, the culture doesn't really matter that much. And Solzhenitsyn says, don't
The change in culture doesn't matter.
the change in culture.
Yeah.
And so, this author and the coercive nature of the dishonest nature of coercion, if you're rooted, then you're not going to allow yourself to change suddenly.
Yeah.
When Chihiro signs the contract, she forgets her name the very next day. And it's an emotional thing for her when she realizes that she's forgotten her name.
And that's a much more ancient message. Like, Jesus said, like, he made the parable of the house built on the sand, the shifting sands versus
Absolutely.
on the rock, right?
Yeah.
So like that's a very, very, old and pervasive concept. But yeah, I think I do agree with you guys though, that the, like I've never really cared about tradition for its own sake.
Sure.
Like, I just don't care. I don't care about culture per se. I don't care about any of that. I care about what's true and what's not.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's a big, it's a big.
What and an important distinction there. We don't currently claim to know necessarily what's true.
Oh, speak for yourself. I know everything.
Because there's things that I knew to be true a year ago that I I look at them like
I've had a radical worldview shift in the past 5 years or probably longer, but like I don't know. I think like I said, I've never really cared so much about culture per se. And I see the opposite in our culture a lot. It's like everything's about now, the here and now, and like fitting in, to to the larger like zeitgeist or whatever, right? But it's like it's completely irrelevant to me.
Yeah.
Like I just care about and like so like to the Solzhenitsyn point, right? Like I think one important thing that's worth pointing out about the live not by lies principle that he lays out, it's not necessarily that you have to. He said, I think he explicitly says, you don't necessarily have to actively fight against the lies. Your responsibility, like your base responsibility, is to not repeat it.
Yes.
Do not engage in the lie.
Yes.
You just keep your mouth shut at least, right?
Yep.
So like, don't put the sign up in your shop window. You
Right.
know, like
if you don't believe it.
if you don't say anything you don't believe.
Yeah.
Unless you're, trolling.
Unless it's going to be really funny.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Satire aside.
Funny throws a wrench in the whole thing.
Yeah. Unless it would make a great story.
Yeah. or financially benefit you in some way.
I'm a very principled person.
Yes, yeah.
Unless I can make money on it.
Correct. That's my principle. I am a capitalist.
Jeff, you've been
It's a
quiet for a
joke.
bit. What are your thoughts?
Oh man, I'm getting hungry. No, on the same thought, on the same, what you guys were talking about, or new thought process?
Either.
Okay, I have nothing to add with what you guys were talking about. So no, I appreciate that perspective and stuff, and I do think I like how that was pulled from the visualization of the movie and stuff. The one thing, kind of changing courses here a little bit, and a little bit of the research. Now I watched this movie yesterday.
Okay.
So it's still.
I think this is the kind of movie you need to like stew on for a while.
And especially after this conversation I'm hungry, Brad. I told you.
I think you need a hamburger on it.
With like most of our episodes, I usually leave our episode after recording these episodes. I go, man, you guys are enlightened, and I need to be so. But the one thing I did that I googled what do the pigs represent in Spirited Away.
Yeah.
Just because I didn't.
Yeah, there's some stuff I don't know.
And
I have no idea.
This is what Google came up with, and I'm not bringing this to you as I believe it. I'm just bringing you do you think Google was right, or do you think this is a correct assumption? But pig symbol, the symbol of a pig represents capitalism.
Yeah, that's a common theme in.
Is that just
caricatures.
Japanese?
No.
Okay, so that's
in political cartoons of like the 1920s, it was really common to
1800s too.
Yeah, 1800s. It was really common to portray capitalists as pigs, and you're familiar with the term capitalist pig.
Yeah.
Right?
Now we're both capitalist and fat.
Yeah.
So it checks out.
Checks out.
Okay. So that was one thing that
I'm a robber baron.
Yeah. It's one of the things in the movie that I'm
really successful.
that seemed not subtly symbolic, but this is for a reason. You don't need to apologize ever. On
No,
this
he's
podcast.
apologizing to me.
Oh,
and I accept. You do need to apologize. And I accept it.
So yeah, that was just one of the things that stuck out to me. Was like, okay, the pig's gotta mean something.
Yeah.
And just
I wonder if Miyazaki intended it to represent capitalism, or if people watching are like, well, obviously the pigs are capital.
I mean, there's definitely multiple conversation points in this movie of capitalism. It's
sorry to interrupt. I sort of viewed their parents being portrayed as pigs as their disregard for Chihiro, like her like their complete disregard of anything. They're just like gobbling up everything without any thought about it, about the consequences.
I could see that if they were just the only two pigs in the movie.
Yeah, that's
but when they're added to a whole bunch of other people that have been turned into pigs or spirits, that are like,
what is that? What's that group?
Okay,
yeah,
right. Are they harvesting humans? Like what's which technically? I mean, they were about to turn some of them into food. So they do butcher those pigs. So there is some darker implications of things that happen in this movie. That they reference butchering those pigs, and I'm like,
right.
Wow. So how many orphans are there? Are there ever people that don't all cross that bridge as a family, or go through that tunnel as a family? And now there's kids.
Yeah, did some of the other girls working there, was it implied that their parents were?
Did they forget about it? Did they forget their real name? are their parents pigs or?
Was it Lynn? Was that the one girl?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I do want to say on the topic of pigs being representing capitalism, as a capitalist, I think that the pigs representing capitalism is a misunderstanding of what capitalism is often. So capitalism properly defined is free trade between two or more people where a coercive government is not involved. That's it.
Right. So a lot of baggage is added on top of that because that can, or, there have probably been instances you could point to where that has led to someone ballooning up larger than competition. And then, like positionally, they're the big fat cat.
Right.
And like, I'm just struggling mom and pop shop.
Right.
And I would say that the pigs
And they've been
here-
abusive historically,
Sure.
like the coal companies.
And I'd say that the pigs here do not represent free exchange between two voluntary parties without a coercive third party.
Mhm.
I would say that they do, however, represent consumerism, which is often yoked
Yes.
to capitalism,
Yeah,
but
that's
it
a
but
big-
it isn't capitalism. It's if it's just raw consumption, and that's not what
Yeah.
I understand that it shows up a lot in capitalism, but that's not what
But
capitalism
that it shows up a lot in capitalism because capitalism causes prosperity,
sure.
meaning there's a lot of excess income and ability to consume.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
But
So it's like saying be like a healthy, successful economy is a bad thing.
so yeah, so I just like people might think that I'm being pedantic here, and I am,
I
but
love that word.
but it's
Like a pedant, whatever that is.
pedant. But I think it's really important that like we get our terms right, so that when we're talking, we are understanding the same things by what we're communicating.
No, I think that's an important distinction. I was a little curious about the meaning of this one. Kind of stumped me for a little bit. Like the whole Haku real identity thing, like him being a river.
Yeah, there's some environmentalism there.
Is that what it's? You think it's trying
because
to
they
say?
even said that river. In the movie that river doesn't exist anymore. There's hotels. I think they said hotels built on it or
Yeah.
apartments.
Yeah.
So he's saying. So it's like saying we should mourn the loss of the like environment sort of thing.
And is that? Okay, and I say this as just someone who's not familiar with non-American cultures.
Yeah.
But like here in America, I think I hear at least once a week, whether it's some TV show, like there's Go Green, there's environment, like
Right.
there's some sort of
Right.
that.
Been hearing the world's
right,
going to
right.
end
Is
in 10 years
Japanese
for the past 30
same-
years.
Is Japan culture Japanese? Like where would you say, are they more Go Green or less Go Green than America?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like
I think that if you were to go into one of the 7-Elevens and look at the packaging there, I think you could conclude that they are not as concerned about plastics as we are. Now,
Which
is
is
that
interesting because they're an island
yeah?
surrounded by water.
Is that as indicative of their
what an
total
island is.
environmental approach? I don't know that it is, but it is undeniable that they're much more comfortable with plastics than we are. I don't think generally they are as environmentally
conscious.
driven. Like,
Okay.
Well, is the environmental movement here? Is it organic?
no,
Yeah, I don't think it's like
What?
I don't think it's a
Are you
grassroots,
serious?
Yeah.
like a real grassroots concern.
No, I don't think there's any hidden meaning behind all the political propaganda of Go
Yeah.
Green.
who could possibly stand to gain?
Right, exactly. Yeah,
No one has any.
it really doesn't strike me as 100% organic. So like, I don't know. I'm assuming in Japan, if what you're saying is the case, they're just the incentives don't align behind their power structures
Yeah, for
to
whatever reason,
support that.
Okay.
or at least it hasn't yet been exploited. If it is
Right. But yeah, I don't know. So I'm curious about like the amnesia thing. Like, what's that all about? Like, why do they all like? Why is she in danger of like losing her memory, or like why did Haku not remember his identity?
Oh.
I think so. Baba Yaba, Baba,
You Baba.
You Baba.
You
Baba.
You filthy Baba.
You Baba. Her goal is for them to lose themselves and become puppets.
Mm,
Whether
Yeah.
there's like it's like
okay.
lose your identity
Right.
and become my property.
right.
Which, if you're seeing her as a metaphor for like, I mean, you kind of made her a metaphor for the state. I don't know if that's what's being said.
Not
per se.
necessarily the state,
But it
because I don't.
fits.
It fits. I think she represents authoritarianism,
Yeah, well, sure.
and that, in my opinion, is
It's
the
fairly
state.
synonymous in most cases. But I suppose, yes, you could have like family authoritarian.
Sure,
Right. yeah.
exactly.
Yababa has
And that demands you give up your identity.
Right.
and Yababa's created this place, and I'm assuming she's behind the whole geographic area that is this bathhouse and in surrounding manufacturer spa place or whatever.
Yes.
So she's created this environment for her puppets to come in, lose their identity, and essentially be lost for all time.
Right.
And
Be her servants.
Right.
Right.
And it's essentially like Nelson, I know you went through this, so I'm only referencing just because I know, like the Lotus Hotel in the Percy Jackson series.
Yeah.
I kind of remember, like that's what I kind of allude, like
Which
when they go through that tunnel.
Actually, Brad, can you go a little deeper? The Lotus Eaters, Greek mythology.
Oh, I forget. Was that the Odyssey where they're going to their certain death, right? Like they know they're entering a battle where that's going to end in their certain death. So on their way, they run into an island where people are just eating lotuses all day and I guess getting high, I'm assuming.
Yep.
And they're like, essentially what these warriors decide is like, okay, well, I could either just go and die 100%, or I just stay here and get high for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And enjoy life and like not worry about things. And that's what they end up doing.
And they lose a bunch of time on their voyage.
Yeah.
Right.
And in Percy Jackson, they go.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
In Percy Jackson,
time is just paused.
Time pauses while they're in the Lotus Casino, which has all of the amenities that a child could want.
They think they're in there for a couple hours,
And
ends
it's
up being
several days.
5 or 6 days. So I think that's Yubaba's like goal is to just for them to just disappear from wherever they came from,
Right.
and just now and if they lose themselves identity wise, they don't know that they're missing something. So that aspect of removal and the aspect of forgetting it makes it easier for her to keep her puppets.
See, what I found interesting about Yubaba was, and that might be part of the like dualism kind of message, but like she wasn't a pure evil.
No.
Like she had a lot of evil elements.
And
but
she
like
sincerely cared about her baby.
She cared about her baby.
Big naked baby with a
She was actually like,
sheep's apron on.
she was completely honest in her like deals that she made. Like, so she made like Chihiro make a few deals. Like, if you guess your parents right, we'll let you go. Like all those kind of things. She thanks Yubaba at the end, which I found interesting. But yeah, like she's not 100% pure evil, which
And
I
she
thought
also
was interesting.
she put Chihiro through like she gave her grunt work. Gyro. Euro, I believe it is.
Yeah.
She puts Chihiro through grunt work to start with, and then because of the stink spirit, she like immediately is like, "Oh, you bring a lot of value to my operation through your kindness, right?" Like, she tells everybody you could learn a lot.
Yeah, I feel like she grew almost a little bit as a character, which is interesting for like a metaphorical like. She's a metaphor.
Have no arc at all.
No.
Yeah, they really don't.
And they don't
didn't know
even
what happened.
Yeah, they don't even remember what happened. They're just right back at day one.
So knowing what bathhouses are, and you see the indulgence of the food gluttony. There's women there that it's not explicit what they do, but we get this impression. And we kind of already identified like the Taoism dualism of Yubaba and Zeniba. When she goes to visit Zeniba, it's like this countryside cottage. The food is very simple.
Yeah.
Do you think Miyazaki is saying that indulgence even in food is bad?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, is he making a point about like almost modernity versus like
reject modernity, embrace monkey?
Yes.
Return to monkey.
Yeah, I don't know. Is he making a point about that? I didn't really think about that. It certainly could be because she was like the benevolent side of that coin, right?
It's interesting because No Face, you said, is supposed to represent loneliness, and he
I spoiled that by reading it,
right? And he stays with Zeniba, and Zeniba is very hospitable.
Yeah,
it's like hospitality fights.
Yeah, it's like
loneliness.
he found. Yeah, and he found like a genuine connection.
Yeah.
It wasn't all the artificial ones he was trying to.
He wasn't trying to bribe.
She was providing instead of taking from him.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, so like in the beginning, there was another thing that kind of puzzled me in the beginning was when she first entered that spirit world, she started like vanishing.
Yeah.
And Haku like fed her some kind of like berry or something
Just
that brought her
food from the.
Yeah, and then he had to like heal her legs or something so she could run. I don't know what that was all about.
Yeah,
like why the disappearing and
So here's what I found really interesting in the train scene. There's a shot where she's looking stage left, and you see her and her reflection, and her reflection has that same transparency of when she first enters the spirit world. And for me, it looked very much like a visual representation of her duality. I think duality is a big theme in this movie.
Yeah, I definitely think that.
And it represents kind of her duality of her real self and then who is in the spirit world or who she's become or however you want to look at that.
Have you guys ever seen an American kids movie that's this deep? Because I don't think I have.
Pee-wee's Big Move?
Yeah.
No. I've actually never seen that movie.
We
I
found
don't think you see a lot of allegory in American
here's the
kids
thing.
movies.
That's true.
Here's the thing, and then you guys, I think you guys will disagree with me on this, but like, I don't know if I'd consider this a kids movie.
Okay. I mean,
Like,
I could.
So for me,
You
like,
consider it a movie suitable for children?
do you want me to answer that now or wait till we get to the end of the podcast?
Well, go ahead and say
No,
it now.
okay, so, like-
You let into it.
Okay, because with the amount of vomiting
Oh, yeah.
and the one scene where the dragon gets cut up by those paper birds,
I think that's a
like-
cultural difference.
correct,
Yeah.
you're right, but up until like I said, the one moment where the breeze went through and the dress is like there wasn't actually anything inappropriate shown,
Right.
But the way that
Implication.
the way that the girls reacted was like,
implication.
oh, okay, I noticed that. But there was that moment, and then the whole movie happened, and then close to the end is when you see the dragon with all the blood, and then you get those couple moments of vomit,
Yeah.
Right.
lots and lots of vomit.
Mm-hmm.
Because of those, like not that I wouldn't let a 10-year-old watch that, but like.
I feel like it's not suitable
just-
for a little kid,
Right,
but I think
it's not done in a pretty way. Like it is graphic
Yeah.
in an animated
the
type of
stink
way. Like,
monster.
It is
And-
impressive how graphic they were able to make
right,
it.
and especially the blood. The blood caught my eye more than the vomiting. Then when the
Yeah.
dragon bursts through the building and hits the wall and lands,
Yeah.
and you just see the blood splatter on the wall. That for me was like, okay, who's the audience?
Yeah, and all the
Because,
guts
like-
and entrails
Well,
spread everywhere. And
I didn't.
No, I'm
Which
joking.
version
I'm
did
Did
you
we watch this
yeah,
movie?
no, yeah,
It's like
yeah. And when they killed
specific-
1,000 people, no.
Yeah, so the blood
With her bare
specifically
hands, and the
Yeah.
bone of
I-
her
Yeah, it took 2 hours.
that caught me off guard. So I wouldn't say it's specifically an adult movie, but there are moments in it more so than Inside Out
Yeah.
where I would be like,
Definitely more blood than Inside Out.
correct,
A little bit more.
way more blood.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
I do think
I don't know if I would.
I do think that's a cultural difference, the
Yeah.
blood thing. I don't think that's necessarily seen as inappropriate for kids there as it would be here.
And I know SpongeBob, like there's vomiting in SpongeBob. There's
Yeah.
vomiting in other animals. Like the vomiting didn't throw me off as much as that
Right.
one scene of just graphic blood splatter.
It was funny when she's cleaning, when she's helping the stink spirit take its bath.
Right.
My kid, like I was grossed out, but my kids were like, "Oh, ew!" And
But
I was
enjoying
really
it, like
no, they were thoroughly disgusted.
oh, they weren't cracking up how gross it was.
No,
Even
and,
Patrick.
and I started cracking up at how revolting they found it.
That's hilarious.
Like for me, that felt just like something out of like Rocco's Modern Life or something. Like the real like cringy, dirty
Well, and that's the
cartoons.
thing.
Like so
They-
that didn't.
Right.
I would have watched that.
They would go, ew, but like they're not like traumatized by
Right.
it.
Yeah, but remember Happy Tree Friends?
Yeah, I watched
but
that
I
as a
didn't-
6-year-old.
I didn't watch that
Didn't come
till
out
junior
till
high.
you were a
Yeah,
teenager.
my
I didn't
dad
watch-
showed me.
I didn't watch that till I was a junior high.
I don't think we can use
That's
what
when
your
it came
dad
out.
showed you as a metric of what's
That's
suitable
true.
for
That is
children.
very true.
So yeah, that's my only thing about the rating of this movie. I do think it's PG, but I do think those two things specifically are just like I would definitely highlight the guidance part of this
Yeah.
movie.
Should
But
we
I do
move then
think-
to our wrap up questions.
Well, I just answered.
Yeah,
it
that's
now.
fine.
I mean, I don't think people are just listening to the end of this movie. So I don't think I just won't answer that question when we get to the end of it.
Sure.
But
Do we have other observations?
Not really. I mean, I feel like this is the kind of movie we would go on and on with because of all the symbolism.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'll just say at the top, I wasn't expecting to like it. The only anime that I had watched up to this point has been Pokemon.
Excuse me, sir. It's Pokemon.
Pokémon.
Pocket Monsters. And I enjoy Pokemon. I still play the video games and stuff like.
Yeah.
So this is the first movie outside of that franchise that I've watched.
Okay.
The second international movie I've ever watched, to my knowledge.
really,
I liked it. Actually, within the last month, like the first
Oh,
one
that's
was
a pretty
the first
big
one was just a month
qualifying.
ago. The
Oh,
first
okay.
no, that's
British.
okay. I'm talking dubbed. Okay, I guess specifically dubbed movies.
Okay.
Okay.
This is the second dubbed movie I've ever watched.
All right.
Never watched
The
a
first one
Canadian
was
movie.
All Quiet on the Western Front, the remake.
The Netflix one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, but overall, I like this movie. Like, I would watch. Like, I guess are we to the end of our conversation?
go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
I liked it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought my favorite part was the music.
Yeah.
I thought the soundtrack went very well with the visualization.
There's a lot of spectacle.
Yeah,
in
the
movie.
blues of the blues of the skies and the
It's a
the
work of
movement,
art.
the movement of like the train when like those are the moments where I'm like, okay, this is pretty.
Yeah.
The storyline again, there were some moments where I missed out on some things, but as a movie, I'm like, this is a fun piece of movie. And I watched the dubbed one, so I don't know if watching it with subs and the like, I don't know if that would change things for me. Or
It will
in
be
a better way,
necessarily a different movie,
but
because of how they dubbed it
right,
to make it look
correct.
to match the lip movements.
But overall, I loved it. I'll just answer all my questions quick, and
Sure.
then I'll throw the questions to you. I think it should stay PG. Just beware of the blood and the vomiting. As of right now, I would put this in my top 250 as well too. Like it's a good movie, and I think it is a good piece of art.
I think it has historical significance. Like it's in the sense of like it transcends a specific time.
Yeah.
Right?
And for me, like I like how like there's some movies where the movie's good and then the music's good, but there's some moments where it doesn't seem like it jives, but you see what they're doing. This movie just like there was never a moment where I'm going, oh, music change. Like just like everything felt natural and everything felt organic, and this movie flowed.
You should check
So-
out more Studio Ghibli films
Oh, I
then,
plan on it.
because
Especially the
that's
two that are in the
very
top
much a
250.
trend in his movie.
And I do want to revise myself as we've been talking. Howl's Moving Castle is in the top 250.
Oh, okay.
So there are two,
Since we started talking,
there are two more.
Is Grave of Fireflies?
keeps
No, it's
refreshing.
the
Grave of
Oro's
Fireflies
Big Move or
is.
whatever.
Grave of
Toro's-
Fireflies is.
My Neighbor Totoro.
Yeah, that's the other one. Those two are in the top 250.
I don't think Grave of Fireflies is Studio Ghibli.
It is.
Well, I think it's on the top 250. I think I saw it
I'm
there.
pulling it up right now.
Anyway,
So that's my final critique. Yes, I would recommend. It's beautiful. Music's great. Watch out for the vomiting and blood. And the other question, has it aged well? If you were to told me this movie was released in 2022, I would have believed you.
yeah.
Because the animated movies, especially the way this one was done, it didn't seem like it was dated or all. It felt
I think
it felt new.
Yeah, I think a big
So-
part of that is that it was like it used historical imagery.
Yeah.
It wasn't like at this point in time that it was relevant.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
That's mine. So Brad, to you, would you recommend this movie?
Yeah, totally. I
Okay.
loved it. Yeah, I'm not the hugest anime fan either. Like I think I share a lot of the same like meh about a lot of those tropes,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I do think these Studio Ghibli movies are different.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like they're saying something.
I will say no,
Yeah.
because we talked about at the beginning of the episode. Before I watched this movie, I did watch that new Grogu short on Disney Plus.
I
So
haven't seen it.
it's like 4 or 5 minutes. It's just this little short on Disney Plus where it's Studio Ghibli and Star Wars, and they just made
okay.
this little.
Huh.
It's Grogu with a bunch of dust bunnies, and it's just this little interaction between.
That's
it's fun.
cute.
So this is the second Studio Ghibli thing that I've watched.
Nice.
Since the Yoda, the Grogu
Big
thing.
fan.
Okay, next question, Brad. Would you change the rating? It's PG. Would you
Well,
adjust?
No, I think PG is appropriate. Like you said, I think PG kind of is the 10 to 13
Yeah,
age,
I agree.
right? So like, cause after that it's PG 13. So yeah, I think it's an appropriate age. Like I wouldn't be like if I had a 10, 11-year-old that saw a little bit of, because it wasn't like excessive violence or
No,
gore,
and it was
like
a very short movie.
a little bit of blood, like in his mouth and like some on the wall and stuff. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't be like upset, if my kid saw that. Like they know what they've scraped their knee a million times by that point. They know what
Right.
blood
And it
is.
splatters all over
Yeah.
the walls.
So-
And you kind of talked about this before, just recently, but like you believe it aged well, and like, and it's not a movie that you're like, this has
Yeah.
not stood the test of time.
No, I think it's aged really well. Like I said, I think it's probably due in large part to the fact that it's not like a period piece. It's like it's using all of these like historical imagery that's spanned
Right.
centuries in Japan, right? So like it's I think it's very cultural,
Yeah.
but I think age wise, I think it's almost irrelevant to how this movie how this movie ages as a piece of art. Like I think it's great. I loved it.
And the last question, the very vague and broad question we ask Nelson and I, or all of our audio guests, would you put this in your top 250? Have you even seen 250 movies?
I'm sure I have. Yeah, I would definitely. I'd put it in my top for sure. I don't know where exactly. Probably in the top 100.
Okay.
Even.
Wow. Okay. Nice.
Because I think it says a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just a really terrific like piece of aesthetics. And and it's not just aesthetics. It has a message that you have to like dig at and get to, and I think it's worth it. Not to sound too pretentious, but yeah.
Nelson, all those questions to you. Just to sum up your.
Give me them in order. Real quick.
Okay. Would you recommend?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Would you change the rating?
No.
Has it aged well?
I think it's aged incredibly well.
Yeah. And would this be in your top 250 or any?
Absolutely.
Your top.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I did fact check real quick a few things.
Beautiful.
Grave of the Fireflies is Studio Ghibli. It's not a Miyazaki film.
Okay.
Okay, that's why.
Is it top 250?
It is top 250.
Hey, that's a third one. That's a fourth one.
Yeah, so Grave of Fireflies, My Neighbor Totoro, Princess Mononoke,
I thought
and Howl's Moving Castle,
Wow.
and Spirited Away. So
he's
there's
killing
five.
it. I thought
There's 5, and of those 5, only one of them is not a Miyazaki film.
I thought Studio Ghibli was Miyazaki.
No,
I thought they were like synonymous.
They practically, but not literally
Not in every
are.
case. Okay.
So
Which one's not Miyazaki?
Grave of Fireflies is by Isao Takahata. Looking
Has
through
he
the
done other Ghibli
That's a
films?
I've seen that one. That's very different.
yeah, looking through it, Studio Ghibli 9 times out of 10 is either Miyazaki or Takahata.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Yeah, Grave of the Fireflies I've seen. It's very different in tone and style. Like it's way darker because it's a darker subject matter.
Yeah, but Ghibli is, by all intents and purposes, a children's animation studio.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Ghibli doesn't, except, do they ever go into that over sexualization of like that some anime does? Like,
Not that
does Ghibli
I've
ever
seen.
go into that? Okay.
Not that I've seen. Kiki's Delivery Service is one that my kids really like. There is some, like you see her underpants, but like it's, to me, it didn't feel like a sexualization anyway. It felt like just like a silly thing.
Kind of like the suntan lotion.
Yeah, it's
copper
something.
tone.
It's something that doesn't need to be in the movie, but like I didn't feel like it was trying to be subversive.
Okay. But
And I've seen enough anime to know when they're being subversive, and it's gross, and I don't like it.
My final thought, and then I'll let you guys wrap it up. This movie actually made me more interested in watching more anime, especially the stuff that's on the more wholesome side of anime. Like, like I would definitely, after watching this movie, if someone said, "Hey, you," like before this movie, I probably would have been like, "Anime, I'll put it at the bottom of my list." I'm a lot more open to it now. Like I'm like it's not something I've ever been familiar with, and because of this movie, maybe that opinion will change as I watch more. But like, I'm more open to it.
I also think there's a huge chasm of a difference between anime shows and anime movies.
Oh, okay.
That's probably true. Yeah.
Okay. Now,
Some of the short run anime shows, though, I think are an exception.
Are most anime shows not like Pokemon? Like, because all I know is Pokemon when it comes.
I
to
think
shows.
there's a lot of subgenres.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like Dragon Ball Z is one specific type of like the battle. Like I
Okay.
forget what it's called, but like there's that.
It's kind of like asking the question: are all movies Babe in the City?
And the answer is yes.
Yes, they are.
Such a classic.
So that should be a new segment on your show. How is this movie, Babe in the City?
Oh! Thank you for reminding me. Hold on.
You have to just do a weird roundabout.
You guys are great.
Hold on. There's something that we need to take care of real quick. It has not yet been brought up, and you've reminded me.
Babe in the City.
Brad, you're hired.
This movie was in Spirited Away.
Yes,
true.
That's what we've been talking about this.
Yeah,
whole
no,
time,
have you not been
Nelson.
paying attention?
What have you been talking about, Nelson?
I thought we were talking about our favorite film,
Oh no!
A Clockwork Orange. So there's a collaborations search that they have on IMDb
No.
where you can see people that worked. You can put in 2 names and it'll tell you movie projects they've done together.
No.
But you can
that's
also
kinda
put in
cool.
2 projects and it'll tell you people that worked on both.
Okay.
On
Is there a director's cut with excessive nudity of Spirited Away
so
and violence?
the original name of this movie in Japanese is Sen to Chihiro no Kamikakushi.
Sweet and short to the point.
Yeah.
Yes. Andre Diaz, who is known for Elite Squad 2: The Enemy Within, The Phantom of the Opera and The Island, is a sound department engineer who worked on both of these movies.
There it is.
Interesting.
We brought it up.
That's cool. I like that.
And for all of our
It's a
first time
fun
listeners,
segment.
just listening to this episode, you need to go back to listen to the other episodes to know what we're talking about.
Yeah, Clockwork Orange has become
It's a meme.
something that we can't get away from, and more and more it's becoming intentional.
Yeah, and we're sticking with it.
You know, actually, really to bring it up in a relevant way, Clockwork Orange really is about the dangers of indulgence.
Absolutely.
How is Clockwork Orange, though, Babe in the City? That's what I need to know.
I gotta go back and watch Babe in the City to answer that
I
question.
know. It's such a pivotal movie. In my
I
childhood.
want this to happen so bad.
so that really wraps things up for us here this week. Next episode, we'll be having the enigmatic stage magician Doc Dixon. I'm going to have a link in the comments to him on Fool Us with Penn and Teller. He is coming on to help us unpack a movie that he is uniquely positioned to help us look at, which
Wolf
is
on Wall Street.
The Prestige.
Yeah, definitely not what I said.
Yeah, The Prestige. So over the next 2 weeks, please watch The Prestige. Watch Doc Dixon on Fool Us with Penn and Teller.
Go see Doc Dixon live.
Go
in
see
February.
Doc Dixon live February 4th.
If you're
in our area.
If you're in the Northeast Ohio area, he is going to be in our area on February 4th. I'll have links to that show. Go buy tickets, show up, support him. But he'll be on with us in 2 weeks to help us look at The Prestige and give us a view of stage magic that Jeff and I wouldn't have otherwise. So we're excited to have him on.
And one final note here, I know I mentioned this last episode. For all you people that like to watch along, as of recording this episode, according to IMDb, Spirited Away is on HBO Max right now.
Yeah,
go see
that is where you can currently view it on a streaming service.
I think we need to
And
move that
Amazon
segment
Prime.
up into like the first.
Correct, I forgot. About
Oh, actually, hold on. You know when that would be really valuable is at the end of last week's episode. So where can people watch The Prestige?
Let me.
That's a good thought.
That's a good question.
Working it out as we go.
Yeah.
Let me look that up here.
Oh man, we should like plan our
We
shows.
should, like, think.
Let's start the whole podcast over.
Yeah. Okay, so Clockwork
welcome to
Orange.
Silver Screen Biases.
We're gonna go through Clockwork Orange.
We're gonna start at the beginning. Psycho.
I watched Psycho recently with Sadie. She had never seen it.
Yeah.
And she really liked it.
Did she?
She laughed at the shower scene
Because she's a psycho.
because she's a psycho. Because it's
camp.
a little campy. And then she had a nightmare that night. I'm like, it's not.
Didn't she
for
also-
60s audience, it would be scary. And
Didn't she
wasn't
also
even really-
call out the twist way early?
Yeah, like 20 minutes in, or
Did you-
like immediately.
Did you tell her how much smarter she is than Jeff?
She's smarter than me. I didn't.
She's met me. She knows.
I mean, I knew because I saw it when I was like younger, but
Sure.
Yeah, she wasn't even really scared by it, but she still had a nightmare. She just has nightmares immediately if she watches anything semi.
I was looking
it's
up
weird.
a fact. What movie are you guys talking about?
Psycho.
Where can we watch The Prestige? No, I sorry.
You guys were
That's
talking,
the movie. It's a great movie.
You guys
Where
were
can I
talking
watch The Prestige? It was made in
you guys were talking
1994.
about Psycho.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay, so as of right now, as of recording
I'm so dumb.
this episode, The Prestige is only available on Amazon Prime or
Okay.
Other pay-to-own download
And other
so
other
it's
seedy
not-
places.
not on any
Yeah.
other streaming.
Like
Yeah.
Yubaba's Bathhouse.
Yes.
Yeah.
.com.
So
.com.
and we'll make sure to from now on put that at the beginning of the next week's episode as well. I like that. So
Yeah. No, at the
we'll
end.
be an episode ahead.
Yeah. When we let you know what next week's episode will be.
And I did not know The
We're gonna let you
Prestige
know
was
where you can
Christopher
find it.
Nolan.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like
Chris Nolan
I
killing.
I
it.
had no idea. I thought I knew all the films he did. I have never seen The Prestige. So
Oh, you haven't.
I have not.
Oh, you're in
I'm
for a treat,
I
my
am
friend.
now
It's a good one.
super
Yeah, it's
jacked
fun.
about it
So let me
because I did not
spoil
know.
it for you right now.
It's a very fun movie.
Okay, I'm
It's great.
Very excited about this. Okay, that's all I've got.
There's two movies about magicians that came out almost right on top of each other. One was The
The
Prestige,
Illusionist.
and the other one was The
Yeah.
Right.
Illusionist. We're not covering The Illusionist. It's not on the top 250. But Jeff, over the next 2 weeks, watch both. They're both so good.
I actually liked The Illusionist more when it came out.
Me too.
I thought it was just more interesting.
Mhm.
But I thought The Prestige, I think,
is a more technical, and it's also technically a better movie.
Yeah, I think it ages better.
And knowing
It
that
ages
it's
better.
Christopher Nolan, there's probably a lot more twists and stuff in it.
No, there's no twists.
Yeah,
They
in
actually
the
tell you
Prestige-
what's going to happen in the first 10 minutes.
Easy.
That's
easy.
not true.
That's not true at all.
Okay.
All right. I am,
None of that
You
is
had
true.
me going
I am-
for a second.
There's no twists in the
I am
movie.
very
Yeah.
much looking forward to this movie. That's all I've got.
Christopher Nolan stares directly into camera and tells you the twist at the beginning.
Yeah, it's a magic trick within a magic trick.
You'll find out soon enough as we get into more movies. Christopher Nolan's my favorite director, which is bad saying that, knowing that I didn't know this was him.
Yeah.
So that shows bad on me.
How big of a fan
But
are you really?
Not
Yeah.
as big as I thought I was.
Oh yeah, name 100 of his films.
Fine. Babe in the City. Babe 1.
A Clockwork Orange.
Batman. All the Batmans.
Batsmen.
The Batman Mobile.
Batsmen.
Well,
Brad, it's been fun.
it's-
I know, it has been fun. I hope you guys have me back
Yeah.
at some point.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Had a
hope so
blast.
too.
There's enough films for us to
Don't
find
go
a way
dying
to
on
stick
us
you in.
now.
All right, I'll try my best.
Thanks for tuning in, people. Remember to check out Tuttle Twins in the description below, and also any articles that we referenced will be linked down below. Feel free to check those out. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the places, and please interact with us there. We want to hear from you guys. We want to hear your thoughts on these movies, what you liked, what you didn't like.
And if you're listening to this as these come out, Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
This is the first episode of 2023. Jeff out. Hefe out. Out.
Adios, Hefe.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening. We had a great time putting this together for you.
To join the conversation, find us on Facebook and Instagram at Silver Screen Biases.
And on Twitter at Screen Biases.
We believe in value for value, so if you found value in our show, we ask you to consider supporting us.
Links to our social media and support can be found in the show notes.